Hello and welcome to Exploring Game Pass. Each episode we'll take a look at some of the best and most unique titles available, as well as the games coming to and leaving the service. Get the most out of your subscription with Exploring Game Pass, brought to you by screenhype.co.uk. New episodes released on the 7th and 21st of every month. Now, on with the show. So, in today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at PowerWash Simulator. Now, this came out all the way back in July 2022, but it was initially in early access in May 2021 on Steam until FutureLab, the developer, released it. Now, when I first saw it go on, everyone was talking about it, and I genuinely thought it was a joke. I thought it was just some big meme. It turned out to be really genuinely enjoyable. Like, I was absolutely shocked by how much I actually really liked this game. So the story is surprisingly detailed for starters. Like, I thought it was just going to be about the gameplay, which is literally just using a power washer, but there's like a load of lore that actually went into it. And one thing I really love about the story is that it includes like fairy tale characters like Hansel and Gretel and the old lady who lived in a shoe. And it's just such a fun and clever way to sort of bring the game into like the mindset of, you know, pop culture and stuff like that. And I thought that was really clever. The writing is really good. Like, it has no right being as decent a story as it is, considering the type of game it is, because it is literally a power wash simulator. You simulate having a power washer, and it just sounded like the most boring concept. And I thought, you know, why are people playing this? Why is this so popular? But it's really not boring in the slightest. Like, it's so relaxing and peaceful and satisfying just watching all that, you know, virtual dirt just be washed away by your power washer. And it's such a clever concept for a game because it's so simple and it's something nobody else would really think of because they'd assume it would flop. But the way it's been done is really clever and really just fascinating, the way they've managed to turn this basic concept into a fully playable game that can actually appeal to more people than you'd expect. Like, I never would have believed that this would be a game I could get into. It's totally not my kind of genre. I don't really like sort of realistic simulators. I prefer more, you know, unique fantasy type games and stuff. But this, it's just really grounding. And I find that, because I like to play a lot of more sort of intense games, and I find that after I've played them, I'm sort of quite amped up, and PowerWash Simulator is just such a great way to unwind at the end of like a really heavy gaming session and just sit down and just wash away all my troubles. And another really cool thing about it is that it's done essentially in real time. And so it basically takes the amount of time, I mean, I've never actually used a power washer, so I don't know if this is true, but it feels like this is a realistic amount of time it would take to clean this area. Like, the proportions from like your person to the places you're washing seem to be pretty good. I think we're probably about sort of 6 foot tall, and it feels like, yeah, I think this would be exactly how tall I am in comparison to a playground or a fire station or whatever you're washing. And you can actually choose the different nozzles you have on your power washer. Like, it's not just, here's your power washer, go nuts. You have to sort of really think about which nozzles you're using for which, like, dirt. And I know this sounds ridiculous. Like, I'm hearing myself talk about the nozzles you're using to clean fake dirt. But it's genuinely really good. And it involves kind of like a lot of complex thinking. You've really got to sort of get used to the different types of dirt there is and what works and what doesn't and how close to stand and which attachments to use. Because, you know, you've got the different nozzles, you've got different cleaning fluids that you can use, you've got extensions, you can make it like shorter or longer to reach the sort of really high bits, and you've also got different equipment, so you've got like a little step ladder, you've got a full-on ladder, you've even got scaffolding if you've got like a really tall building, and just using them all together does create quite a well-rounded experience that's honestly really impressive from a gameplay angle, which I was not expecting with this game. So it's definitely one that surprised me when I was playing it. Like, when I first saw it go on, I was like, there's no way I'm playing PowerWash Simulator. This is ridiculous. Why would anyone want to play it? But then in all like the Xbox groups I'm in, all the forums, everyone was saying, you have to play this, it's a great game. And I honestly thought it was a meme, so I was like, fine, you know what, I'm just going to unplay it, and then I can write about how awful it was. And then I played it, and it wasn't awful at all. It's one of those games that if you just want something that's going to satisfy you, that's going to really feel rewarding, like the progress in that game feels so earned, because the way the campaign works is you don't get access to all the jobs immediately. You sort of start small and then work your way up to bigger and more detailed jobs. So by the time you sort of reach the stuff like the fairground or the fire station, stuff like that, you've already got a lot of experience of what nozzles and stuff will work. And so you're more invested and you're more determined to actually complete those big jobs that are going to take you like 2 or 3 hours. Like I said, it's essentially real time. So you will be sat there for 2 or 3 hours doing it. But it doesn't feel like a massive time sink. It doesn't feel like the kind of grind you would expect it to. It just feels like a really fun experience that just is like escape from the real world. I'm just sitting there, I'm engrossed in the sound effects. Like the sound effects of the water are so realistic. It really feels like I am in that environment. And it's such a great way to just immerse myself in the game, and I really like it. And I'm clearly not the only one who really likes it, because it's estimated to have around 1 million downloads on Steam alone, and then it's estimated to have a further 1 million players through Xbox Game Pass and 200,000 players through PC Game Pass. And this was a while ago that they took these statistics, so it could be even more now. According to Play Tracker, it's got about 20.5 hours of average playtime, so that is just absolutely insane to me. That feels like so high. And honestly, yeah, I totally get why people... I don't know how much time I've put into the game so far, but I haven't completed it yet, and I reckon it's got to be around 20 hours at least, because all the jobs do really take a long time, but it's not boring. And I think what Future Lab have created here is something so decent and something so enjoyable for pretty much everyone, because the gameplay is so accessible. It doesn't require skill, it doesn't require knowledge of gaming, it just requires patience, essentially. And what I thought was really cool is they actually did an Ask Me Anything on Reddit. So I thought I'd read out a few of their sort of questions and answers that I thought were really interesting. So somebody asked, what inspired you guys to make a game about cleaning stuff? Which is a very valid question, because it's not exactly the first concept that would come to mind when you were thinking of game development. So their reply was, one of our directors had seen the rising trend of the super satisfying videos of people power washing things. We were considering making some kind of FPS game at the time, and a power wash simulator seemed like a fun idea to combine these interests of ours, which it really is, because the way it's done, your power washer is essentially like a gun. It is like a first-person viewpoint of shooting your power washer at the grime. So although you're not killing people, you're killing dirt. So somebody else asked, is there any chance of a VR mode coming in the future? And their reply was, thanks, we'd love to do VR, but our focus is on launch for now. But they posted this 2 months ago. So now that the launch has gone underway and very successfully, and the fact they have said they would love to do VR, I suppose it is very possible that in the next year or so, we could maybe see a VR version of this game, which would be absolutely brilliant. Because like I said, the way it's done is so immersive, and I think it would really lend itself very well to VR. So I would really like to see that. Somebody asked, why garden gnomes everywhere? And that is definitely a recurring theme that I hadn't really picked up on until I read this comment. And now this guy's commented it and I'm thinking about the game. I'm like, my gosh, there really are a lot of garden gnomes. So Future Lab's reply was, this originally started as an in-joke from one of our artists who hid a test model our animator had created in some of our levels as a joke. And then they said the deeper lore meaning behind the gnomes then came from this. Now I am really intrigued to know what this deeper lore meaning is, because I haven't discovered it actually mentioned in the game really. I've just sort of seen the garden gnomes around. So I'm really looking forward to finding out what the game's reasoning is for the gnomes, because one of the major plot points in the game is that the mayor's cat is missing, and I would really like the garden gnomes to somehow be related to this. I want there to be some kind of vandal out there who is like stealing cats and placing garden gnomes everywhere. I just think that would be a really funny development, but I don't know what they've come up with for their actual reasoning, but I trust them, because honestly the humor in this game is on point. Like, it is so genuinely funny, as when you're sort of washing the different levels and stuff, it's not just sitting there washing the levels. You do get text messages through from the clients, because the sort of premise of the game is that you have your own power washing business. And so these levels are essentially clients that have requested you, and then whilst you're washing, they'll talk to you, and other clients might message you to sort of say, hey, I've got this that needs cleaning, can you come do it? But the way the texts are written are very funny. Like, there was one person that was my client was a teacher, and she just had her students had like taken her phone, so it was a bunch of essentially text messages from children that were just absolutely ridiculous. And I just really love the little details like that. It's just, it really is one of those games that creates a whole experience for you. Like, even though it is a simple concept, they've absolutely put their all into this game, and you can really tell that when you're playing it. So let's find another good question. So somebody asked, do you have any plans for more cosmetics that aren't just recolors of the same gloves/outfits? I would love to see different styles of the power wash suits. And they've replied, nothing to announce, but absolutely I'd love to see some more variety in the outfits that aren't just recolors. Different suits, helmets and gloves is something we'd definitely like to add if enough people are asking for it. Now, I personally would love it because I'm an absolute sucker for any kind of customization option in a game. Like, anyone who knows me knows that if a game offers customization options, I'm gonna spend like half my time on that. Like, I waste so much in-game money on skins and things. Like, I don't spend real money on skins because to me that just feels like a waste. But if I'm playing a game that has like in-game currency, I will forego getting powerful upgrades that will in any way affect my gameplay just so I can have like a pretty suit or something. So I would definitely be more inclined to play more Power Washer if they added like, I don't know, Halloween themed suits, Christmas themed suits, like any kind of like themed suits would be really cool for me, or just anything to give that sort of visual difference on the screen. Because although you can buy different cosmetics at the moment, like the commenter said, it is mostly just recolors. So mine's pink because love myself some pink. I don't think they have a purple one, so I think if they had a purple one I probably would have bought that instead because I do love pink, but purple is my number one favourite. But they do have kind of limited customization options at the moment, so I would definitely like to see some more variety there. So I found this next question really interesting, which was, how did you manage to make such a realistic power washing mechanic? And their response was, it took us many months of prototyping, tweaking and experimenting among programmers, designers and artists to get it right. I think the secret was not focusing so much on making it realistic, but satisfying instead. Games are all about smoke and mirrors after all. And I just thought that was really interesting that instead of going for necessarily a realistic experience, they wanted to make it satisfying. Like, they knew full well that the major appeal of this game was its satisfying nature. Like, it hasn't got the most exciting, complex gameplay in the world. And even though the story, like I said, is way more detailed and interesting than it has any right to be, it is still just a power washing business with some like fun town stuff thrown in. But it's not going to have the kind of sort of deep story that you'd expect from like a AAA game or something. So they can't be competing with games like that. So they needed to carve out a very specific niche within their indie market, and they went for satisfying. And so it's cool that, like the person said, it does feel very realistic when you're using the power washing machine, but I've never used a real power washer, so I don't know how true that is. But I think it is cool that they were very sort of clear, we want to make a satisfying mechanic rather than necessarily a realistic mechanic. So let's do one last question, and this is, are you guys working mostly on maps or on features? Also, if there will be another storyline after this one ends, would it be in the same town or maybe another town or another country? And then there is one last part to this question, but it's a spoiler, so I'm not going to include that. So Future Lab's response is, we are working mostly on new jobs, brackets, maps. We recognise that our players are hungry for new content, so we are doing our best to always be working on new jobs. Nothing specific to announce in terms of new features, but just know that we are always looking at ways to improve our features. Same goes for storylines, nothing to announce, but we had a lot of fun developing the career mode story for PowerWash Simulator and have been elated to see people enjoying the story and lore aspects of the career mode. I have no doubt that the Power Wash will be going to some very interesting places in the future. So I'm really glad that they haven't just sort of settled on their success and left the game as it is, because although the game is brilliant as it is right now, I'm glad that they're sort of thinking to the future and what they can include in terms of new content, because I really love when game developers keep putting new content into games that already exist and they just give it to you for free so you get more value for your money the longer the game's been out. And I'm genuinely really excited to sort of see which new jobs they're going to add, because even though all of the levels are just using a power washer, there's definitely a very different technique depending on what you're cleaning. And I do really like seeing the different progress you get, because some levels are more colourful, some are more about the sort of like intricacies of the design, and it is just a genuinely different experience depending on what you're washing. So if they could add even more levels, I'd really be interested to see which directions they took it, because some of my favourite things to clean are the sort of smaller ones, like the cars and things, because they have lots of different brands of cars, and I think it's even more satisfying when there's lots of small things rather than one large big thing, because with the cars you've got like the headlights, you've got the bumpers, you've got the tyres, and I really like having all those sort of small things that's going ding 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 ding, your progress checker the whole time as you're doing it, and that is one thing that I really love about it. So when I first started playing PowerWash Simulator, I got really hooked on it, because like I said, I hadn't anticipated actually liking the game. So when I started playing it, it was just a complete shock to the system, like, my gosh, I'm just going to sit here and play this for hours, because it just blocks everything out. It's such a great distraction from real life. And I got so into it and so hooked that I briefly considered buying a power washer in real life and starting my own business. But then I realized, oh, hang on a second, if it was in real life, I would have to handle the logistics of the promotion and everything. I'd have to like buy all the equipment, get a van, and I don't have the money for it. Plus, worst of all, I'd have to put in actual physical exertion instead of just sitting on a chair holding my controller. So that dream very quickly died. But it is that addictive that I could see myself actually doing it for a job. I'm like, I could do this all day. Like, it's so immersive and so exciting. And so I think it's definitely worth checking out, even if it doesn't feel like it's going to be your kind of game, or even if you like gave it a chance in the past and didn't get into it. I'd say, put in an hour. Put in an hour, and if you're not feeling that sort of immersive enjoyment of just being able to relax and let the world wash past you, pun intended. But yeah, if you're not feeling it after an hour, then yeah, give it a miss. But I'd say give it a chance, because you never know. This could really end up being one of your go-to games when you've just got a couple of hours to spend on a game, or you've just had like a really intense gaming session on something else, and you just need to chill out for a bit. This is a great way to chill out while still gaming and getting that all-important gamer score for your Xbox, because that's another thing. I really anticipated this to have, I thought it was going to be really quick achievements. I hadn't realized just how long the story mode in this game was going to be. So it's not amazing for achievements, but you do get sort of regular achievements throughout the game. So if you keep playing it, you'll sort of, they're relatively easy to get. Some of them are more difficult than others. I would definitely recommend looking through the achievement list before starting a level, because some of them are things like clean XYZ area of this level first, or clean XYZ area of this level last. I know for the fire station, it was clean the whole thing without using the scaffolding, and that ended up being really difficult because one of the buildings was this absolutely ginormous tower, and cleaning the inside was fine, but cleaning the outside essentially involved me jumping off the roof multiple times and just trying to catch those last little bits on the top floor. So that was definitely very difficult without the scaffolding, but a lot of them are a lot more accessible, especially towards the start of the game. And I just like going for completion. I'm very much a completionist. I never used to be, but these days with certain games I can get really into them. So I've always said this is the sort of most boring concept of a game that I will 100% complete. Like, I'm definitely going to complete PowerWash. I don't know when, don't know how long it's going to take, because I don't sort of settle down and play it for hours and hours and hours. I usually play it for 1 or 2 hours at a time, but I will complete this game one day, 100%, and I will go back and I'll get all of the achievements, because I can definitely see myself wanting to return to this game and wanting to get that satisfaction. So as great as PowerWash Simulator is, it is still just one of many games on Game Pass, and the cool thing is they are always adding to that list. And there are some really cool games that are coming in September. So I'm going to start with the ones coming on September 22nd, 2 of which I am so hyped for. So the first game, which I'm not overly fussed for, is Spider-Heck, and honestly it does look kind of cool, but I've got a massive arachnophobia, so I don't want to go near it. But it's described as a fast-paced couch co-op brawler where spiders dance to the death in the grip of chaotic battles using laser swords, grenade, and even rocket launchers to defeat their foes, which I must admit, that's a pretty cool premise for a game, minus the spiders. If it was like Frog Heck, I'd be all over that, but Spider-Heck, I can't be dealing with it. But so it's an indie fighting game, but it's also got like platforming elements, shooter elements, and it's got kind of like a neon art style to it, which I think is quite interesting. However, I am going to jump straight into the game, which I am most excited for, and that is Slime Rancher 2. Now, I adored the first Slime Rancher. I don't even know how many hours I put into it, but a lot. Like, I loved that game. And I remember watching the FanFest event where Slime Rancher 2 was announced, and I've just been talking to my friend, because one thing about me is that I'm not particularly into a lot of AAA game franchises, so I don't really recognize them. So I'd been watching the whole showcase thus far, and I'd been really bad at guessing them. And I'd turned to my friend, literally, I was like, I'm going to guess the next game, I'm going to do it. And then the next game came on, and the Minomi Park logo flashed onto the screen, and I literally jumped up in excitement because I was so hyped, because I knew Minomi Park could only mean a Slime Rancher 2. And then they proceeded to play like the cutest, most awesome trailer ever, and I was just beside myself with excitement, and I still am. And now the time is finally here for it to be added to Game Pass. That's also on September 22nd, and seriously, check out Slime Rancher 2, because it is going to be epic, I just know it. Like, you literally just like, you collect cute, adorable slimes, and you explore these really colourful worlds, and you sell their poop. Like, that's the premise of the game. It is unfortunately just a game preview, but I would imagine it must be pretty polished for them to put it on there, so I'm definitely still going to check it out. But yeah, super excited for Slime Rancher 2. Absolutely cannot wait to dive in with all the cute slimes. Then the other game releasing on September 22nd is Beacon Pines, which I hadn't heard of until I saw that it was coming to Game Pass, and now I genuinely cannot wait for it. So the developers described it as Winnie the Pooh meets Stranger Things, which is just kind of an interesting mashup already from the start. But honestly, watching the trailer, it looks amazing. I absolutely adore the art style. It's so cute and kind of cartoony and hand-drawn-y style at the same time. It's really cool. I absolutely love it. And it's very sort of story-based from what I can tell, because I've watched the trailer and I've sort of seen descriptions of it from the developer. So it does seem like it's been quite heavy story-based, but the gameplay itself also looks really fun. So it's an indie adventure game where you basically traverse this world, but you can influence the story. So it's all happening inside this magical storybook, and you can change the words of the book, which will then affect what goes on in the game, which is just so exciting. And it looks like it's going to be simultaneously cute and creepy, and I've already got it pre-installed, so as soon as the 22nd comes around, I'm going to have to really decide whether to play Beacon Pines first or Slime Rancher 2 first. It's going to be a tough one. I'm just going to be spending the whole rest of September on my Xbox playing Slime Rancher 2 and Beacon Pines. I refuse to choose. Then on September 27th, we've got a game that I know a lot of people have been excited for, including me, which is the full release of Grounded. So this came out, I want to say the early access came out in 2020, because I know I was still streaming at the time, and I know because I played quite a few streams of Grounded, and even in its early access build, I absolutely loved it. It was really cool. So knowing that it's going to have like all the features, everything that's supposed to be in the game is going to be there, I'm definitely going to jump straight in with a new game of Grounded. So basically the premise is you've been shrunken down to like the size of bugs, and so you're out in this garden and you've got to explore around and collect materials and craft things, but the bugs are going to be attacking you, so you need to like craft armor and weapons so you can defend yourself, and you can build like bases and you can do quests. There's a whole really cool story going on at the same time, and honestly I had so much fun with it in the early access version. I've got high hopes for the full version, so definitely do check out at least the trailer for Grounded, because honestly so worth a play. A lot of fun, and definitely the best survival game I've ever come across. Then also coming out on the 27th of September, we've got Moon Scars, which again I hadn't heard of, and looking at it, it's not my kind of game, but I can definitely see why some people would be into it. So the sort of tagline for it is, under grim moonlight, the fierce Claiborne warrior Grey Irma battles, driven by a lonesome purpose. Find the sculptor and unravel the mystery of her existence. It doesn't say you have to read it like that, but that's how I feel it should be read to really get the dark atmosphere of the game. So basically it's like a sort of 2D non-linear story. It doesn't describe itself as a Metroidvania, but it does say non-linear, so it's probably semi-linear, I would imagine. So it's a 2D game. It's a kind of pixelated style, like there's not much detail on the graphics, but the fighting mechanics look really cool based on the promo materials. So I'm not entirely sure what to describe it as. I'm not sure if any of you have played Ender Lilies. Like, the art style is absolutely nothing like it, but the play style looks like it might be a little bit similar. But yeah, it's definitely heavy emphasis on the sort of action and fighting side of it rather than the exploration from what I can tell from the trailer. But either way, really cool looking game if that's your genre. And I would definitely say check out the trailer if you're into kind of fighting action type games and you like exploring around. Then on September 29th, we've got a game that I think is going to be really cool, which is called Let's Build a Zoo. So I was a big fan of Zoo Tycoon, and I was upset when they took it off because, I don't know, it's just so cute and relaxing just building your own zoo. So Let's Build a Zoo kind of looks like a pixelated version of Zoo Tycoon. I'm not entirely sure on how the gameplay works. The trailer was a bit vague. It was just kind of showing the zoo developing without showing exactly how you do it. But the art style of it looks so similar to Pokemon Ruby, and I think it's going to be really epic having that kind of art style with building my own zoo. Like, there's something really just peaceful and enjoyable about building my own anything in a game. So I've also quite recently enjoyed 2 Point Campus, which is on Game Pass. And yeah, just building my own version of something is so satisfying, and it's a nice break from the more intense games that I also like to play. So being able to mix and match them is always a lot of fun. So yeah, I would definitely say look out for Let's Build a Zoo on the 29th. And then if you've got a PC, also coming on the 29th is the game preview for Valheim, but I kind of want this podcast to be more about the Xbox console games, so I'm not going to delve too much into that one. And then on the 30th, we have got Paw Patrol Grand Prix, which from what I can tell is basically Mario Kart for children. I watched the trailer, To be fair, it does sound pretty good. The downside is it looks like the gameplay is going to be so slow, probably because it's aimed at young children who would enjoy Paw Patrol, which I think is about 5-year-olds or something. But yeah, like, it does look like they've thought quite a lot about it. Like, you can choose which characters you play, there's lots of customization, you can have power-ups and things. There's only 11 tracks, which feels kind of small, because if it wasn't on Game Pass, it's like a £40 game, and it just feels like for £40, only 11 tracks, but you have as well got to factor in the fact that it's a very well-known franchise for children. But yeah, if you're an adult, I doubt you'll enjoy this game. It doesn't look that exciting. If you've got kids who you want to kind of game with, this would be perfect because you can play up to 4 people multiplayer. And yeah, it looks like it's definitely well suited for children. It's not too complicated, but it's got fun elements. So if you want to get your kids started on a racing game, look out for Paw Patrol on the 30th of September. And now we've had the games that are coming soon, so we have to take a look at the ones which are leaving to make sure you don't miss out. So I'm going to start with the one I'm going to be most sad about, and that is Slime Rancher. So I was literally just done talking about how excited I am for Slime Rancher 2, but alas, the first one is leaving the service, and that was the one that made me fall in love with the game. It was so completely unlike anything else I had ever played. It's just so cute and wonderful, and although I am genuinely really excited for the sequel, I would have liked to have had the first one to just kind of return to the origins, you know, see them side by side, and I will have a couple of weeks of that happening, as these are the ones leaving at the end of September, so I've still got between the 22nd of September and the end to play them side by side. But yeah, plus I don't have all the achievements on the first one, and I kind of plan to go back to it someday, so I guess the someday will have to be this week. But yeah, if you haven't played Slime Rancher, I fully advise you to give it a go before getting into the sequel, you know, learn the backstory, because I think the sequel is going to be a direct continuation of the story, so although it's not necessary to play the first one, you would still get a better experience from doing it. Plus it is just super cute, and just honestly, give it a try, see what you think. We're also losing Lemon Escape, which I've never played. It's like sort of multiplayer FPS with a twist. There's like time loops involved, and it honestly seems really confusing, but I watched the trailer. It does look interesting, just not necessarily my type of game. I'm not entirely sure how active the community on it is either, because like I said, it's a multiplayer game. But yeah, it's definitely a unique concept. There's also one called Going Under, so looking at the trailer, it actually looks really fast-paced and cool, so I'm probably going to download that and give it a go before it leaves, just because it does look interesting. I think I remember it coming to the service, actually, and me thinking, oh yeah, that's cool, I'll get around to it, and then just not getting around to it. But yeah, so basically you're like this office worker, and there's all these crazy colours, and you have to like fight people, and it's like a dungeon, but you're also getting promotions and stuff. I don't know. The trailer looks wacky. It looks like a really just crazy, intense, action-packed game. Just a bit of fun, nothing too serious. And honestly, I like when games don't take themselves too seriously. So the average time to complete on Going Under is about 9 hours. So it's not too long, but not too short either. So if you're doing that one, you'd probably have to sort of manage your time well with the other games. We're also losing Subnautica Sub-Zero, which everyone was obsessed with when it came out. Like, I remember all the crazy Twitch hype. It was so insane. Everyone was going just crazy over Subnautica. I never played it because I'm a total wimp. Like, I watched other people streaming it and I was like, my god, no way am I ever going near that game. Like, it's not even that scary. It's just that I'm really babyish when it comes to that kind of thing. So you're like this underwater explorer sort of going under the seas, but there's like all these monsters and fish. Well, fish don't sound that scary by themselves, but they're very scary fish, okay? They jump out at you. I'm not interested in putting myself in those stressful, scary situations in a game. So one of the reasons I like to look at Leaving Soon games is that it introduces me to titles I probably wouldn't have tried otherwise, and Dandy Ace is definitely one of those, because I wasn't particularly keen on the logo for it that shows up when you're searching through Game Pass. It was very sort of easy to look over, I guess. It didn't look particularly captivating for my kind of art style. But I watched the trailer for it because I saw it was added to Leaving Soon, and it actually looks really, really cool. It's a sort of roguelike based on real-time combat using cards. And I really love the colours in the game, so I'm not sure why I hated it so much on the logo. And I think another reason I had like a bias against Dandy Ace was that the Dandy part of the name reminded me of the anime Space Dandy, which my friends made me watch an episode of, and I hated it. I thought it was rubbish. So I just kind of automatically associated the two of them in my head, I think. But yeah, honestly, for that one, I would say watch the trailer, because it does look like it's going to be a really fun game. And I'm actually planning to download it and play it before it's too late, because I really think I'll be able to get some fun out of it. It doesn't look like it's going to be like oh my gosh, this is my new favourite game or anything like that, but it does look like it could be something really enjoyable. So I would definitely recommend giving it a go and seeing if it looks like something that you would be into. Now, I'll be honest with you, I really don't know much about the next title, which is Unsighted. I had a look at the trailer and like game information, but it just doesn't appeal to me in the slightest. It's like, well, according to its Wikipedia page, you can see I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel for this one, but it's a Metroidvania adventure game. And see, I do like Metroidvanias, but I get lost really easily, so I always end up needing some help finding the new areas and stuff, which is the problem, because anyone who knows me will tell you I'm just the worst at navigation. I'm just absolutely useless at it. Can't get it anywhere in real life. Certainly can't find my way in video games if there's multiple parts. So I really enjoyed Hollow Knight, but it did take me 50 hours, mainly because I kept getting lost. So I have no interest in diving into a new Metroidvania unless it really piques my interest. Like, I'll play Silksong because that looks amazing, but Unsighted just doesn't do it enough for me. It's pixel adventure. It doesn't look bad or anything, and if you like Metroidvanias, and then yeah, I think you probably should want to watch the trailer and see if you should give it a go before it leaves. But if you're not overly fussed on Metroidvanias, then to me, based on the trailer, it doesn't look that exciting, although it has got like 9s across the board on the ratings, so what do I know? Like I said, I really don't know too much about that game, so I won't pretend to have knowledge that I don't. We've also got AI Somnium Files leaving. So this game is partially a visual novel, but there's a few more elements of freedom to it. It's definitely very heavily story-based. I haven't played it myself, and it's not something that I would avoid playing, but given the fact that so many of the games are leaving before the end of September, it's not going to be one of the ones I add to my list to play, just because I have to be picky about which ones before they go. See, that's probably the main downside of Game Pass, is that there's just so much choice that you end up missing out on games that you'll probably actually have a really fun time with. Like, I'm sure I would really enjoy playing AI The Somnium Files, but I just don't have the time to dedicate to playing it, unfortunately. However, if you're into sort of visual novels with like elements of freedom, so with this one, you can choose which items you investigate. It's like a detective story. The artwork for it actually looks really sort of engaging and interesting. Like, I can see you definitely getting immersed in this game and not finding it just boring watching them talking, which can be an issue with visual novels. But apparently, according to reviews, it's got a really engaging, interesting story. And see, when I'm talking about games I haven't played, I feel really self-conscious because I don't want to start saying things that aren't true. But honestly, as with the other games, watch the trailer if you're into sort of visual novels, if you're into deep, interesting stories. Like, if you're into more gameplay-heavy games, then you might want to give it a miss. But if you've got the time to dedicate before the end of September and you really like a strong story, then definitely check out AI The Somnium Files. So Astria Ascending is the next game leaving, and honestly, based on the trailer, it looks like every single other JRPG. Like, it's not a genre I've got anything against, but it is a genre I just feel is always basically exactly the same. Like, all the games end up being so similar, unless you're really sort of engaged with the story, which they do have strong stories, but for me, I don't know, I just never get too into JRPGs. I like them, I'll play them, but for me, one is basically the same as another, and I'm sure some of you are listening to this thinking, sacrilege, how dare you? But that's just where I stand with JRPGs. Like, if you enjoy them, you'll probably enjoy this one. It's got turn-based combat, which is definitely my preference for combat, because I haven't got terrible reaction times. See, that's the thing, I've got good reaction time, so I have no idea why I'm so bad at real-time combat, but I am. The one exception being Hades. I was really good at Hades, but most real-time combat I suck at, so I like turn-based combat because I can use my brain instead of my hands. So yeah, this is a turn-based combat JRPG. It's got exactly the kind of artwork you would expect from a JRPG. There's really not that much I've got to say on it because I haven't played this one. I'm judging purely based on the trailer, and like I said, the trailer, literally nothing stood out to me. I was watching it like, yeah, looks cool. I can see people enjoying that. It hasn't got a particularly high rating though, so on the sort of Metacritic, it varies per console, but it's roughly around sort of 65, which is pretty low for a game. Like, most games, like, if they're good, would average out about 75. So the fact it's averaging about sort of 65 suggests it's probably not worth playing unless you're really into JRPGs. Then we've also got Procession to Calvary, which is what I'm playing at the moment because it's been on my sort of list of games I want to play for absolutely ages, and I saw it was leaving and I was like, no, I'm not going to miss out on this one. So the average time on completion for this one is about 3 hours, so it's nice and short, plus it's even shorter if you're using a walkthrough, which I now am, because I was playing it, I got completely stuck, I went to check the walkthrough guides and I realised that I've been playing it wrong from the start. Like, I thought you were supposed to go around killing people. Turns out you don't. Looks like if you give me the option to kill people in a game, I'ma do it. Like, I was just going out there killing civilians and everything. So, yeah, so basically this one's got a really interesting art style, actually. It's based on sort of like medieval paintings. So you've got all of those really weird depictions of human faces that are so unique to that period of time. And then it's all combined in deliberately awkward animation, so it just makes you laugh when the characters are moving with this rocking awkwardly from side to side. It is very funny, it's got humorous dialogue. It's not particularly engaging, so it's basically a point and click. So the story is that this evil leader has been overthrown and the peasants are in peace, and your job is to hunt down the old leader and kill him because you really like killing. You were killing all throughout the war, and then when the war has stopped, you were told to stop killing, and you're like, no, I want at least one more murder. So you've set out to murder the old ruler. But yeah, it's a nice short game, bit of fun. Like I said, nothing special, but easy 1000G. If you like collecting achievements and getting that gamer score, this is definitely one to check out, because like I said, under an hour if you're using a walkthrough, and pretty fun to play. Like, even with the walkthrough, I'm still enjoying it because of the fun visuals and everything. And I do try to do it myself. I just don't want to do the wrong thing, like killing people. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. And then the final game leaving is Visage. And honestly, that one is so scary, I couldn't even watch the trailer to give you too much information on this. Like, I'm not joking when I say that I'm a coward. Like, I am just a baby when it comes to horror stuff. I can't be dealing. I watched about 2 seconds of the trailer and I was like, nope, can't deal with it. Too much suspense, too scary. So I went to see what other people were saying about it. They're saying it's like the scariest game they've ever played. Gave them nightmares. It's absolutely terrifying. Brilliant if you're into horror. Those are the sort of comments it was getting. So if you were not a coward like me and you enjoy getting scared, you're crazy. Like, why do you put yourself through that? But yeah, go check out Visage if you want to be scared and you want a good horror game, because I've heard it is fantastic. But I'm not looking into it too much because I'm a baby. But yeah, so those are all the games leaving end of September, so I'll run through them one more time. So Slime Rancher, Lemnis Gate, Going Under, Subnautica Sub-Zero, Dandy Ace, Unsighted, AI Somnium Files, Astria Ascending, Procession to Calvary, and Visage. If you're watching this after the episode's released and it's already past September 22, then you might still want to check out some of those games, especially Slime Rancher. And that's it! We've reached the end of the first ever episode of Exploring Game Pass. Hopefully you've enjoyed learning all about PowerWash Simulator. I've certainly had fun making it. And don't forget to check out all the games that are coming and leaving. My recommendation would be to start with Slime Rancher, but obviously your preferences may be different to mine, so do with that what you will. Please make sure to subscribe to keep up to date with all the new episodes, which will be released on the 7th and 21st of every month. Next episode, we'll be taking a look at the recently added Disney's Dreamlight Valley. An Animal Crossing type game populated with Disney characters sounds like a dream come true, but is it as magical as it seems? Tune in next time to find out.